push the button.
It's
That's crazy.
just like the segue to our Patreon.
Don't know if that made the cut, but sure, go ahead, keep going.
Welcome to, while we weren't recording, we are the Dresden Files podcast. This is our other show where we do other things. Today we have no topic, which means we're just going to talk. And if you like to listen to us just talk, you can go and give us money on our Patreon, which is brokenjars.xyz.
We'll complain about everything that we talk about here on Discord as well, but with gifts.
Yes, all the time.
Give us money. Justin has kids. Alex has a big bet she needs to pay for her husband. I have a cat.
I'm gonna set J Ray on you.
Andreas EG just likes money, so whatever.
Yeah, he's gonna go get some pizza.
So, you guys want to dive straight into some controversy? Some hot takes?
It's been a minute. Why not? Let's do it.
I've been playing
the hottest of
Hogwarts
takes.
Legacies for the past week or so, and it's been great.
Nice.
I love it.
Do you find yourself hating minorities and marginalized people more, or
I feel like this seething hatred building up inside me for trans people, especially, yeah. And like, now whenever I see a goblin, I can't help but like think Jew all the time. Like that's really
Right.
like I've been indoctrinated at this point.
Now I was lampooning earlier, but to be fair, the whole, like, if you've seen the old cartoon and like how they did the goblins, I was like, shit, that really does look spot on. Like,
Sure,
if she did that on purpose, like, that's crazy.
I'm not gonna contest that goblins have drawn inspiration from Jews, but I'm not saying but that's not specific to J.K. Rowling. Like,
but if she participates in it, isn't it enough?
But that's just that's the trope that's been established.
It's the same trope out of like dwarves.
It's just
Are they Jews too?
Yeah.
With the Scottish accents.
Yes, Tolkien kind of pulled from Jews and Semitic languages, I think, for the dwarves, and the Scottish accent was an accent afterwards. But
it's done by that radio show, right?
Yeah, and so I believe that needs to become a trope standard of, like, if you have dwarves, you must have Scottish accents. I'll firmly stand by that on that hill every day. But the Tolkien was drawing on Jews for dwarves.
Interesting.
I'm just saying that she has no in this regard with the whole the Jew goblin thing. Like, that's not special or specific to her in any way. I doubt that was even a consideration for her, like, at all.
I mean, it's probably one of those things, like at best, if you could say this, it's probably one of those things where she was so unself-aware that she didn't realize what she was raised with, right? Because there's so much like English culture that she just pours into those books one way or another, that she just didn't realize, like, the caricatures that she was using. Like, that's the most I would give her, I think, is that it was subconscious. But other than that, that's kind of a stretch.
I mean, then what are we gonna like say Blizzard Entertainment are anti-Semitic because the goblins in World of Warcraft are money hungry with long noses too? I mean, where do we draw the line? Goblins, that's just how goblins are, right? Is it probably like, can you make the comparison? Sure. But it's not unique to her or unique to Blizzard or unique to. That's just goblins. I mean, then what? Then we just can't. Then we have to reinvent goblins.
So what you're getting at is like the idea of folklore being inspired by negative traits, and then those negative traits elsewhere being ascribed to entities that are people or races or sections or religions or whatever.
It's nothing, right? I guess presumably. I mean, it may be, it may not be. I don't know, but also like when you see similarities between something that's mythical or something that's fictional and to something in real life, sometimes there was like often there's probably no intent at all, and you can just draw the parallel, and then it becomes a thing.
Yeah, it is more of a. You can just look at it as a cultural bit of data, or you can look at it with you're evil and that there's an intention to do something evil to other people, and that seems to be a more of a current flavor of zeitgeist, but it has a lot of flaws in it. Kind of like you're saying, is like you might be like getting all the pitchforks for one person and ignoring other people, or you get pitchforks for all of them and then you no longer have any entertainment. Not saying that any entertainment has to have something that's offensive in it, but a lot of it is going to have something that's accidental or just harmless or like meaningless.
These are
Like
really weak defenses of J.K.
I'm
Rowling.
being
just
very,
saying,
very vague. I'm not trying to defend her. I'm saying that
I'm
there's this
just
thing of
saying, she actually donates money to groups that some people would consider hate groups. So, not all of her stuff is incidental, but maybe the goblins to Jews thing could be. It could be, like I said, her, the way that she was raised or whatever, right? Like, I mean, come on, we're Americans. Like, my grandfather's from Oklahoma. There is probably a wealth of like slang and other things that I have no idea what the origin is, that it's like my brother caught me up on some of the things that they used to say that was like, oh hey, did you know that really means this? And it's like, oh shit, no. So like that sort of thing I could see, or whatever. But in her case, like, she's literally an author. Maybe she should go do the research on the terminology or the background that she's using, that sort of thing. Me, I'm just like a lazy American who whatever. But I'm just trying to draw the distinction between, like, yeah, okay, maybe the goblins thing was an accident, but the trans thing is very much on purpose. And when you've got all of that lined up together, how much would you attribute everything else as what a happy accident? That's just culture, it's
as
like,
far as I
no,
know, the
she
trans thing isn't
hates
in Harry
people.
Potter.
There's the trans thing is not
No, but
anything to do with the
it's part
world.
of what you got to talk about it when you're talking about J.K. Rowling, especially where, like, that to me, that's what a lot of the people who've been upset about defending the game or not. Like, I've seen the Jude thing recently. You could bring up Seamus, for example. You could bring up Cho, and all of the other like, oh look, we've got representation types of characters that are literally caricatures of whatever their for lack of a better term race is. She's got a lot, right? That's like Jim it's like Jim's reputation on being sexist, right? It's warranted in a lot of ways, right? Like, there's a lot of history there. At least one of them I feel like has tried to update and distance themselves potentially and that sort of thing. Whereas like J.K. Rowling's actually like funding organizations, and to me that's where it comes down to, right? Like, you could say whatever you want about her.
The teams out there. That's mine. Hello.
I was just saying, so like ultimately for me, like the challenge is, do I buy into this game that's potentially going to support her, that's potentially going to support these other organizations? That's where it came down to for me. And ultimately it's got to be a personal decision, right? There's loads of people where it's like, a lot of people like to play the death of the author card. We've talked about that. You can play the death of the author card both ways. Whether she intended it to be a caricature of Jews or not, you could say that doesn't matter. And it is, because it's too close. Or, the other thing is like, Harry Potter's transcended J.K. Rowling because everything she's made since the original 7 books came out has sucked. So we don't care what she has to say about the series anymore because now the fans own it, or whatever. I don't ascribe to any of those ideas, but I've heard all of them recently,
She is the person who single-handedly made me feel conflicted about my death of the author stance, because usually I was like, if the author says it, then that's in universe canon, like that's their decision because it's their universe. But when she came out with them like, oh, before plumbing they shat on the floor and magicked it away, I was like, that's
you made it that far, like, so for me, it's like when she purposefully contradicts herself or, oddly tries to score some of the social points, like, oh yeah, Hermione totally could have been black. And it's like, but why and how, and why didn't you just write it? You know,
And that's
it
also
just it comes, you know, it comes back to like similar things that we've said about The Last Jedi and whatever. It's like, man, that would have been really cool if it had made it into the movie, because it's a movie, it's a visual medium. Whatever your backstory is and whatever your headcanon is doesn't matter nearly as much as what you put on screen. And whatever she tweets out years after the fact matters a whole lot less than what she printed, you know. But
so,
if she wants to give us some insight, then that's something, you know. That's where I think the headcanon is. But I think you can also just be like, your motivations for doing this aren't what your motivations were at the time you were writing it, right? Like, you know, I would definitely like to listen to, you know, a sane and reasoned backstory and like, whoa, this is the research I did and this is the history or whatever. But instead we get Hermione could be black because that's important for some reason. In fact, it was so important it's said nowhere in the books, you know. And I'm not really trying to go on the attack. We've got three whole people, one of them's tweeting at me right now, where it's like, this passage says she might have could have been black, but like, why leave that up to interpretation if it's that important to you? Write
Well,
it.
from what I
Dude's name is
remember,
Sirius Black. Just call her Hermione Black, and she's the blackest black that's ever black if it's important. Why is it like, oh well, it's interpreted. You could have interpreted it that way.
it's because she never
you know?
planned it, and she was trying. It's also funny because like,
Right.
she was saying all these like woke things, and like she was kind of like for a while she was like the left darling, but
Right.
then like the far left darling. But then she said only biological women are women, and then it was
Right.
like then she was like, I don't know where people put, like where they put her now, where her political fan bases or whatever. Like, but I mean,
Well, she's also a billionaire, though. So, you know, and only Republicans are billionaires, or only conservatives are billionaires. So you got to take that into account. But I can't do dry sarcasm when we're talking about political and social issues. I'm going to get lynched, you know, like somebody's going to take the wrong thing. But
so
yeah,
have you decided
I
to
mean,
play it or not?
do what?
Have you decided if you wanted to play it or not? What did you end up
Now,
on?
I'd be open to playing the game for sure. Like the one, so the trump card that I played on myself and got painted into a corner is like, look at it this way, right? They paid her licensing for the IP. She may also get royalties, but she's already got a chunk of that money, right? They probably paid her millions of dollars to get her stamp of approval and to license that IP. And then on the other side of that coin as well is that all of the developers and all of the people that work for that company, they got to get paid, right? And so it's like, how much does she have to do with it? How much does she already profit from it? And are you just virtue signaling, or is there like a real actual, you know, like hurt, or, you know, for lack of a better word that you could apply, right, to her pocketbook or whatever, you know? So it's like, at the end of the day, the developers all got to get paid. You could lump them in with her and just be like, well, you should have picked a different IP that didn't have racist and social, you know, injustice undertones and that sort of thing. But um you know, like, they've made their money. I'm not personally in a hurry to play it. I'm just kind of waiting and seeing. But like, what I've told most of my friends is like, look, you got to make the decision for yourself. Like, I understand where everybody's coming from. I don't eat at Chick-fil-A because I don't want my money funding the conservative Christian engine whatsoever, right? You know, it's like, those guys got to get paid, but they can go, you know, work for a different company. So I'm trying to draw parallels between those two and just be like, okay, how much is this boycott worth it to me or whatever? But at the end of the day, I think it's a personal decision is what it comes down to. And I think she should absolutely be called out for where she is openly, you know, promoting hate speech, where her attempts at like representation are hollow and, you know, just don't mean anything, because she's just trying to be like, oh, but we got a token black kid in there. We even got his name, you know, which I won't say on the air because I'll get canceled anyway. You know, but it's like that sort of thing. Like, come on, like I said, it's funny to bring up Seamus because like that's the other one. It's like, ah, yes, the one Irish kid who has a proclivity for blowing shit up. like again, you could argue, she's British, subconscious, whatever, but give me a break,
I mean, I think one of the ones that like stood out to me even as a kid was Cho Chang, where I was like
Right.
an Asian character named Cho Chang, where I was like, I don't know about this one. That seems a little on the nose.
Right. Well, and didn't she have something else recently that was like that's the thing. It's like it's not even just Harry Potter, but it's like she's written other things, even though they've never come closely as
She
successful.
has a
But
pseudonym for a crimi series where she's called what is it? Robert Galbraith.
And since he's looking at his books, you can tell that he has those books.
Yes.
right.
I have not read them. I found them on sale once, and I don't think I'm gonna read them because they just don't seem that good. I tried reading the first one.
Yeah, I can't remember enough of the details, but I thought she had a character in one of those stories that was like, the name was very much like a caricature of itself, and yeah. I'll see if I can find it, but like she hasn't gotten better is kind of the point. She at no point did she say, you know what? I had no idea, I learned something about myself or, oh yeah, that was, I'm just like not very creative and, came up with like the worst Asian names and Irish names in imagination or, anything like that. She's, as far as I know, she's never acknowledged it. She just keeps trucking along and, has done as bad, if not worse in her new stuff. But yeah, like, I'm also, I'm going to admit I'm a little bit of an opportunist here, right? Because I swore off the books when I was a kid, like I was ninth grade, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to read these books. And for the most part, I've held to that. I figure someday I'll read them with my kids, and maybe we can go through that. Love the movies, love the idea of the world. That sort of thing. Some of that stuff has obviously been put through the filters a few times, making it to the big screen, and things get cut, for various reasons. But
like a show or something around Harry Potter instead of the movies are too cut down. They're just mediocre.
They are giant books. Trying to fit that into a movie. I mean, like splitting up the last ones, like I guess, but at the same time, that kind of fucks with the flow. So, I don't know. It gets hard.
Your microphone is trying to auto adjust its volume uptake or something like I can hear your background and then you started talking and you were super loud compared to before. I think it's your background. I could hear someone talking or like a TV or something, like a male voice.
There's nothing on over here. Nothing.
Do you hear?
You're insane.
I'm hearing. I mean, it's like somebody's in the next room having a conversation or something. So
there's literally nothing.
You can watch it back later if you want. There's definitely something.
Right. I wasn't sure it wasn't Andreas's roommate, honestly. So but
I'm usually pretty good about when I do podcasts. Usually,
right. Well, so the director has been upset and now she's going slightly crazy, but I wanted to hear her take because it seemed like she hasn't fully bought into all the accusations I've been slinging, and these aren't mine. These are just things that I've heard and whatnot. But
in general, I find the hate about J.K. Rowling overblown, and don't let someone else be upset about something take away something that you love. Other people can be mad at J.K. Rowling for all sorts of reasons. You can still love Harry Potter. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's like there's this one streamer that I somewhat watch sometimes because she plays Final Fantasy and I play Final Fantasy and she's like one of the big streamers in that space who played Hogwarts Legacy, and she got it especially because the Final Fantasy community is woke as fuck and super annoying and cringe. But it's like she got so much ridiculous hate for playing the game, and it's just like, why do you gotta go and fucking attack people for playing a video game? Like, I don't, I just don't, just fucking
Attacking people is the current currency. Having the hot take and being able to be superior to someone else is modern cultural currency. And so that's going to continue until people stop putting up with it. It's happened for a long time and it's going to continue happening. And this is just one of the things that its current target is.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that I'm so happy to be here on our final episode right before we get canceled for good this time. But like, look, come on, the JK Rowling hate I don't think is that overblown, right? Like I think there are people that are digging into it. I think you can make a lukewarm, defense if you want to, but I think she like like I said, at the very least, she's not aware that she's doing these things with the race baiting stuff, but she's absolutely aware that she's doing it with the trans stuff, and she's on a crusade with that.
But
That
as far as I'm
can't be
aware,
underblown.
she's not putting
Like,
it in her book. She didn't put that in Harry Potter. She
Okay.
isn't necessarily putting
But
that in
it's-
the other books.
but it's a good
And I don't
reason
need
not to
Have the
support her,
same political
right?
opinions as my authors anyway.
Okay.
And I read her statement of what she had said, and it didn't sound that exactly crazy. It wasn't the same type of caricature.
It's not a
other people were
statement. That's
making
what
of-
I'm saying. It's not a one-off statement. Like she's out here constantly, like she's part of organizations. Like it's not a one-off statement. And that's where, whether or not it's in the books, I mean, I guess that's where you could play the death of the author card and whatever. But to me, that's where it's like putting money in her pocket enables her to fund these other organizations. That's where, you could run afoul of that. Again, I think it's mostly up to you. She's made her $1 billion. Are you really sticking it to the man, so to speak, by not buying into her books or whatever at this point? But I think it needs to be acknowledged that that's part of that chain there, right? That, I'm having a tough time, drawing a similar parallel with Dresden Files because, that's kind of our whole bread and butter. But I mean, in a similar vein, it's what I have a problem with the Monster Hunter stuff. It's like I'm even generally kind of in the same ballpark, unfortunately, as Larry Correa's politics and that sort of thing. But it's one of those things that, like what he did with his what was the other mock award thing that he did, the sad puppy thing or whatever it was, where it's
Rabid
like
puppies, I think, was another one.
yeah, whatever it was, like I got no interest in being within a mile of that if I can avoid it, right? If like the only thing that he and I have got in common is that we support the Second Amendment, that's not enough. Like I can find other ways to support that than supporting this author who, it generally seems like he's being a douchebag on purpose, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like this isn't even the first time with Rowling that this has come up for me, let alone other adjacent kinds of topics and whatever. And so that's where I understand the people that would get upset about that. But I think at the end of the day, it's a personal decision, and maybe that's a little fence city and whatever, but no one's given me, like, I see both sides, but no one's given me enough way to go one way or another where it's like, we need to turn this into a crusade. We totally need to be harassing streamers and trying to report them who are playing the game. Like, no, that's too far, like that's a little ridiculous for me, right? So it's like
there was
you
a
can
website made to check if the streamer you wanted to watch had played that wizard game. It was like, have they played that wizard game or something?
right. Yeah, to me that's ridiculous, right? So it's like, if you want, you can work on the extremes and you can work your way in and see where the line falls, but it's easy enough for me to not participate in it.
The line should be, is it to your interest? Do you want to play it? If you do it. That's it.
So like, we're saying that because the themes may or may not appear in the game, or like, I'm just trying to,
I mean, don't let other, yeah, pretty much. Don't let other people.
That's where I was trying to maneuver you, because it's like, so what if the tones were overt, right? What if
that's what gets your jollies going, fine. I don't care. I don't need to participate in it just because it's up to you.
But wouldn't you see it as appropriate that that marginalized group would be upset about that?
Sure, they can be upset. They don't need to participate in it. Other people can enjoy it just fine.
Why though? Why would we want to encourage that?
I don't want to encourage policing other people's time.
Okay, but if we're putting out something that's obviously racist and obviously marginalizing other minorities like sexual orientations and stuff like that, why would we want to encourage that?
I'm not their nanny.
Okay.
So they can produce, enjoy whatever they want. I don't need to. The people who want it will have it or not. And the people who don't want it don't need to participate in it. And it's just the general philosophy on all of it.
So it kind of falls back to the speak with your wallet.
Yeah.
Like
It's just like
argument,
the really
like,
basic
if you want-
foundational level of capitalism, right? Like, I don't need it. I'm not going to play Hogwarts Legacy because I don't care. I am not interested in spending my time in it. But I'm not going to tell anyone else not to.
It's yeah, so it's like when you like how with Justin, how he's like, I gotta pay to watch this show because otherwise they won't make more of this show. Where you think that that doesn't matter. Like that could be the most racist neo-Nazi show out there, and if it has enough monetary support, you would be like, if they want to watch it and they want to pay for it, and there's a market there, they can do it, and then other people can hate them for it. Just don't.
Pretty much. Like, I just like on the most basic of my understanding of libertarian idea, just like, I don't need to do anything. I have no pressure. I'm not going to pressure other people. And in that example of like a really racist Nazi show, or whatever, I don't think it would have financial success unless there was a controversy of people trying to cancel it and then reverse controversy, blah, blah, blah. I think that's where a lot of people are making money. And if you just like let it die in the ether of people not giving a shit, that's all that would happen. And that's like, I don't care unless it's breaking a law. And even then, half the laws are just kind of stupid. I'm going to not talk about that topic too much, but just like
Yeah,
do something.
You already said libertarian, so we know what you feel about that. But
I mean, there's reasons, and then there's unreasonable positions, and I know that's a place where people fall into other traps. I'm not trying to get into that rabbit hole, but like, do something if there's something actionable, I guess. I mean, at the same time, you are free to protest it. I remember going to see Harry Potter and seeing people with signs outside the movie theater when I was 7. It's like, you are free to do that and spend your time on it. I just think you're an idiot. And I'm just not, this, whatever gets your jollies going.
so is there no social topic where you would see yourself participate in that? I mean, you seem to be trying to apply that across the board, but I got to imagine there's a few things that if they affected you personally, your tone would change, right? That's what I'm getting at.
Well, it's like, what would make me act that would overcome my laziness? I'm not sure.
Okay, so this is more the Gen Z thing coming through, right? Like, where
so
like
something
is
that,
it laziness? Is it fatalism? Like, should we go? Like,
there's not much
you're
that I would go protest for.
You believe in nothing, so
No. There's not much I would go protest for. I might get into a heated argument about something that I care about. For example, I might care about how deaf children are treated because of the way that it affected my dad, and I see it in the deaf community sometimes. Like, my grandparents never learned sign language, so they never learned to speak to my father in his own language. For the most
their
part,
own kid,
their own child, yes.
Wow.
And it's like, that always has hurt me in a way. It's like, why can't you have an exception of your own child for that? Same thing happened to my stepmom. Her mother, in fact, was a linguist. She spoke 5 languages. She refused to learn sign language because she was told that that would be detrimental to my stepmom. And like, that's not true. She wasn't able to actually have communications with friends until she went behind mom's back to learn sign language in middle school and shit like that. I get heated on a topic, something like that. But that's because of like, kind of, how are kids going to be growing up, and like, you should at least be able to communicate. And it's not even the same thing of like, is it going to be American Sign Language, or is it going to be signed exact English? And there's minutia there. I really don't care after that point. It's just, that is something I will argue about heatedly. And then I'd have to leave it on because it is still their choice.
So if I made it a game bullying deaf children, that would get you to protest, or
no, I don't think so.
okay.
But you would care about it.
I don't know. Honestly, if it was a video game, it was like, I don't care if it's a video. It's just a game.
I'm definitely hearing Charlie Brown's parents in the background again, but yeah.
Yeah, I can hear the mumbling too.
It's super weird.
Okay, there might be speaking happening in another room, but I can barely hear it without my earbud in.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's your mic is on like a tripod on the desk, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if it's a vibration thing, but anyway, sorry. I was not trying to pivot the conversation, but yeah, I don't know. I find that weird because, like, you know, I mean, at a minimum, these guys, I think, are right to be outraged, and I think it's plenty fine to lean on, you know, like your friends and relationships and explain to them what your outrage is. But like I said, I definitely pull back well before, like, let's go harass a bunch of streamers because they're streaming the video game. You know, like, use it as a opportunity to educate people, sure. You know, call people out, especially billionaires are like the number one person that should be held accountable because they can be, you know, if nothing else. Like, don't go bully the guy that is like, oh yeah, I had to save like 6 months so that I could afford said video game because, like, this is my only outlet and joy. You know, there's a difference between, like, punching down, you know, like, is another thing you'll hear from comedians a lot, especially, like, don't be the guy who's punching down, you know. So, but ultimately, like I said, I've been telling people I think it's their own decision. I think they should be aware of it, and I think they should internalize that. I do also have a concern with the idea that it's like, because it's just a video game and because it's media and whatever, like, you're allowed to enjoy whatever you want, even if it's got like socially, you know, reprehensible messaging and tact. Like, that's kind of what I was getting at a little bit just by trying to ask some questions, is like, yeah, there are some things that I very much would like have a problem with. Like, if it's completely a fantasy, if it's completely just a story or whatever, or if they're using it to, like, you know, bring attention to it, a social issue and that sort of thing, fine. You know, like, you know, The Boys is one of those where it's like, I have a tough time with a lot of the imagery and a lot of the stuff that comes out of The Boys, but it's very clear what the, you know, what the showrunner is trying to lampoon, unless you're on the right, apparently, you know, that sort of thing. So a bunch of neckbeard types are like, oh my God, you know, he's just like us. And it's like, yeah, but that's the problem, you know? So anyway, if you haven't been up on that, but like in J.K. Rowling's case, it's not, right. She's not championing any justice cause, like social cause of any kind.
I mean,
you know,
she is, right?
Well, she thinks she is, but like,
She thinks she's
I don't know.
women. That's where like she's a pretty extreme feminist. That is that very special subcategory where it's like very, very, very left, except on the trans issue, because she doesn't believe men who identify as women are women.
Well, and I'm not going to give her the very left thing while we've still got all of these other racial issues out here that are probably at play. But like, so director, do you feel threatened by trans women? Like, is there some insight that could be garnered here? Because I don't talk to a lot of people that are, but, you know.
Well, how do you feel about trans women in sports?
I'm not threatened by them either, but, you know.
I mean, you're not participating in the sport,
right.
But there are biological advantages to being male that they will still have.
It is incredibly unfair to all the biological women. There's a reason that we have divided sports up into men or women. It's because men have a...
Actually, it's open in women. It's anybody who can qualify or women. Those are the categories that are held for every sport that I'm aware of.
Sure. I can't say if that's true or not. I assume you're right, but so it's so unfair to all the women. Like imagine. I think it was in is it weightlifting or swimming or both, where a trans woman has come into the women's section and is now obliterating records. And like there was one where I think in the same tournament or the same event, she would have been the world record. This one woman, but she got destroyed by like 20 seconds or something on speed and swimming. I think it was uh, by the trans woman. Is that fair? Is that fair to all the hard work and dedication that she has put into this? Because this other person grew up as a man originally, is born a man. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, then you have other issues of like Castor Semenya has grown up as a woman but has internal testes. It's not clean and easy, but there are biological advantages that men have. And therefore, if there
So
was a four hulking man that identified as a woman, possibly to a similar level, I would feel threatened by a man of the same size.
well,
People
yeah,
that
but
big.
but we're murking up the waters royally with this conversation, right? We're talking about, does it threaten your identity as a
No,
woman because
no,
they're
no,
a
no.
trans
That's
woman?
not what I heard you
Because
say.
no, I understand. I understand. Welcome to the English language. But is J.K. Rowling really out there being like, oh my God, they're destroying women's sports, and I would hate to be cornered by a trans woman? Like, she might have brought up the women's sports things to try and add some legitimacy to it. But what I'm talking about is her identity as a woman threatened because there are trans women.
I don't
And again, we're talking
remember
about
that being
something that's
anything that
like,
she said anyway. I think in what she had said was something about on a train, a woman's only cab. She feels like it defeats the purpose to have males in that cab because they identify as women when those women might be trying to be separated from males. That's what I remember Rowling saying. I'm not sure if she said something elsewhere that I didn't
The one
see.
I know where they kind of blew up was something about someone had made a tweet or a news article where it was like people who menstruate, I think it was.
Oh yeah, that was
right.
And she was like, I'm sure they have a word for that. And then she made like plays on the word woman.
yeah. That did, I think, start some of the meltdown. I remember seeing that. I mean, I think some of the language is a bit annoying. I don't feel like my identity is threatened by it, but I'm not going to let other people threaten my identity anyway. There's something to be said about the distinctions of categories and whether those categories are still held with boundaries or not. And those will vary in importance depending on situation. Like someone in swimming, how unfair is it versus like say in MMA, where it might be someone like actually beating the shit out of somebody. The level of importance will matter depending on the context.
Yeah, I mean, it's like sport has to attempt to be fair, right? That's also why you don't allow like doping and shit. Otherwise, like that's why it's against the rules pretty much any sport. Otherwise, it's just who has the best doping tech, who can science the shit out of it the most. Which, by the way, I think could be an interesting version of all the sports.
Yeah, right. Honestly, that would be kind of an interesting, even with the whatever doping stuff. It's like, who does have the better versions of it? How does it work with this person and their genetics in terms of like the world's strongest man and all that? I'm curious, like, what could they do if they did open doping? I guess there's a reason
It's like no
that they
hold,
don't want to allow
everything's
that because
allowed.
people will steroid themselves to a heart attack at 30. But
you can just be a full mutant if you want to. You can push it as much as you want.
yeah.
And later in the future, with who knows, with cybernetics or something, just like machines helping you lift built into your body. Charlie Brown's parents has something to add. Yeah,
It's funny because it stops every time we call it out too, but
yeah.
probably just natural pauses. But
Yeah.
To get to circle back around to where it started, the game's pretty fun. Like it's a fun game. You get to, it's like
No one gives a shit if the game is fun. Haven't you been paying attention?
but it's everything like young Lance, Long Andreas wanted when he was like reading Harry Potter, and he's like, oh, when this is gonna be a game one day, like I get to run around in an open world, and I get to do magic, and you know, it's great fun. It's not the best open world RPG ever, but it's good. It's fun.
Cool. I remember playing the Harry Potter game from the first one when I was a kid. It was actually weirdly fun for how restrictive it was. Almost creepy.
What is the best movie-based video game you have ever played, you two? That you can think of? Because I know mine right away.
Movie based, you say?
Yes. So based up, like you know how movies, games often came out in conjunction with a movie, like the big movies, like Harry Potter, for example, had movies associated with each movie, games associated with each movie. Okay, well, my favorite pick is Spider-Man 2. Like it has.
is that tied into the movies?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I haven't played it, so I'm
great.
just looking. Like, there's decades worth of comics before there's a couple of
Right.
movies.
So I wouldn't have counted that.
But it's okay. So it's specifically based on the movie. Like the plot in the game is from the movie. The characters, it's like they look like the characters from the movie. It's that game is based around the Spider-Man 2 movie.
Okay, gotcha. So specifically, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
whatever his name is, Dr. Octopus, and the web swinging in that game is amazing. It's so good. To this day, it's amazing.
See, I don't know. That seems weird. People might make video or movies on video games, and I can talk about maybe the movies, but like, it's weird to try to figure out which game might have been in tandem with a movie. And the best thing I could think of is maybe the Witcher games, but I feel like that's cheating the answer anyway.
Yeah, I would. That they're not based on the video production, right? They're not based on the series.
No, they came about in the wrong time frame direction either.
The
Right?
movies, the series is based on the books, but they kind of just want to do their own thing, so it's not really. And the series got greenlit because of the games.
Right.
Yeah. Have you seen the new show, Justin? Because I heard it's so shit that I can't even be bothered. The new
Which
Witcher
one?
show. The newest Witcher, Blood Origins, I think it's called. Or
I haven't gotten the chance to yet. So like I hear that, but it's got enough things that I would watch a few episodes and see for myself. So
I heard great things about Justin's performance in The Last of Us.
oh yeah, am I amazing in it?
Yeah, I've heard you get a lot of good feedback. It's what's his name?
Pedro Pascal.
No. It's he's in
Nick
Parks and
Offerman?
Rec.
Nick
Yeah,
Offerman.
Nick Offerman.
Yeah, Nick
Yeah.
Offerman. He essentially and I think Nick Offerman is kind of that type of guy, but he essentially plays Justin like the zombie apocalypse is happening and I was prepared. Here's my secret bunker. Here's all my guns. Here's my storage of water. Here's my everything.
Nice. Yeah, I was like, I mean, I have been practicing to be the Last of Us for a while, so seems like something I'd do.
I saw a clip on YouTube. That's pretty much the only thing I've seen where he comes up from his bunker after the zombie apocalypse, and he's like, okay, and he goes out and he gets supplies. Lots of gas. He goes and gets around the first things he goes and gets before it's gone, right before someone else comes and take it. And then he goes to Home Depot, gets a lot of stuff, and then the power goes out, and he's like, "Huh, that was fast." And then he goes and breaks into the gas power plant and gets it to work again, and then back to his home. It looks like I need to check that show out because I never played the games.
Right.
So the plot is mostly, secret to me. I know how it ends.
Yeah. I don't have a PlayStation, never have, so PlayStation exclusives kind of, excluded people like they're supposed to. So
Isn't there a version on like Steam or something? There's got to be a computer port by now.
I mean, there is now, but
There
like
wasn't,
it,
like,
I
when
think
it
it just
came
came
Yeah.
out.
Oh, okay. I guess
Yeah.
in tandem with the HBO show. There was a guy at work he really loves Last of Us, and he's been watching the show, and he started ranting about how it's deviating from this game. And I was like, that's interesting because everything I've heard is like it was staying really close to the game, almost shot for shot, and everyone was really liking it. And I got to prodded him into like 15 minutes if they changed this, they changed that, and whatever. It's like this is the first adaptation that he has seen that he didn't like, and it's like you kind of sweet summer child of like we've watched people melt down over Wheel of Time and Witcher iffy, and Expanse was kind of good, but like it's just like listed off a bunch of other adaptations. It's like they've been ruining them for so much longer than you've been paying attention.
Right. Yeah.
I really want more Expanse. I should read the books at least so I know what happens. Like I heard it goes like it turns to 11 after the time jump, and then it's supposed to be super good. We're also just left with so many plot hangings right from the show, kind of like
Yeah.
Oh man, such a good story.
Weren't there rumors that they were trying for a movie?
I don't know. I don't hold hopes up for that ever since I got burned by Stargate when they like we're gonna finish with some movies and they got some of them out and then everything went to shit and we never got like a finish to all the plot threads.
Stargate was Fox, though, right? You really shouldn't have, expected anything out of that. Were we still talking Expanse doing a movie? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, I thought I remember hearing rumors that they were trying for a movie.
They're supposedly, like there had been talk of a movie and there had been talk of doing like the time skip and then finishing, the show and whatnot. So we'll see, but yeah. I would like to see it personally. So, but
I don't know. I don't know how many millions Amazon can spend on various shows because now it has to do the Henry Cavill Warhammer thing and it has to do that right. And if it doesn't do that right, then I don't think anyone's going to give it the time of day anymore in terms of Amazon Studios. But I don't know. Did anybody pay attention to 1899?
That one got canceled though, right? That was your Dark creators.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I mostly found out
Netflix.
after it got I mostly found out after it got canceled. So
it was definitely my kind of thing, and we watched it around Christmas because like it came out November 17th, and watched it in the last week of December or something, and I finally got like time to spend with it, and then like 3 days later it was announced that Netflix canceled it. And something I was telling myself as I was grieving was maybe Amazon will pick it up because they were just handing out money to tons of people. And
right.
The show needed 3 seasons. They made that clear very like upfront in their whatever description. They wrote it for 3 seasons. So canceling it after 1 is just you're not even giving it time to get off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And to look at the timing is why I will never give a shit about Netflix ever again, is that it came out on November 17th. Wednesday came out November 24th. And that took over the entire internet for a month. And like all of their marketing was about Wednesday. And so 1899, which was a slower burn show that needed more of a groundswell of people, of course it was going to lag behind in its numbers. It didn't even last 2 full months before Netflix canceled it. And it just like I have literally no reason to ever invest in a Netflix show again because they're just going to cancel it.
They're idiots because the only thing that you need to know about 1899 is that it was made by the same producers and creators as Dark.
Yeah, and I didn't watch Dark until after it was entirely finished.
Well, and I'm not even saying like whether or not you think that Dark was fantastic, you should know by now that Dark was written for all 3 seasons. And so like you've absolutely canceled a show that was going to be 3 seasons in a bottle. Like, is that really that much to ask? It'd be one thing if you were taking a season. Well, it'd be one thing if you were like, oh, well, it's The Witcher. We don't know if it's going to go anywhere. We don't know whatever. Oh, it's, Wednesday. We're just literally making it up and just whatever. But it's the fucking creators of Dark, guys. They know how to write 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Three
I mean,
seasons in a bottle. You know how much that's going to cost. Like as opposed to like Wednesday is just like, I enjoyed the show, but there was a lot of stuff in it that I didn't necessarily need. I didn't need the Adams to be like all of a sudden like psychics and wizards and shit for real. Like I didn't need there to be an actual like, monster manuals worth of monsters running around town or anything like that. It was like, I mean, it kind of works, but it's like Goosebumps for grown-ups and didn't really need all of that out of the Adams family. Like
I
let's
could
focus
love
on their
exactly as you're
relationship.
describing. I could love all those aspects. But like you say, I don't know if I need that into the Adams family. I haven't watched the
Right.
show, and while I've been
Mhm.
upset about 1899, everybody comes up to me and calls me Wednesday.
Which is ridiculous because like whatever.
I apparently dark hair and a bitchy attitude is all you need.
You should
Well,
stop blinking
there you have
whenever they call you that. Just like keep staring at them until they go away.
That's just going to make it worse.
You or practice the Wednesday quips, which also is not going to help. But yeah, so
I don't know, I haven't watched it. I don't think I'm gonna watch it. I've never really been much into Adam's Family, and just doesn't
I
seem
mean,
to-
the thing is, it just has very little to do with the Adams family, right? Like I could probably count on one hand how many like primary like pieces come out of there. The name is one of them. The hand is the other one. So it's just like it's just like thing is, a non-trivial amount of it. The fact that they got, Wednesday to come back and reprise her role as a different character, and it's just like, I mean, okay,
dumb.
but
If she's not, I don't know, if she's not the same character, I kind of feel like it's weird to have her.
Right. Yeah.
Unless she was, I mean, it would have been more interesting if she was playing Morticia, but Catherine Zeta-Jones was playing Morticia. It's okay.
Right. Which, like she's a fine actress and stuff, but the casting for the parents was not great in my opinion, so it didn't live up to it, right? It's tough in that regard. So
I had
Lester
everything
did
I
okay,
wanted.
but it's Lester, so
Yeah, I had everything I wanted
But-
in the movies from the 90s.
right, that's and they do a weird like semi callbacks to that anyway with like, oh, she's performing and stuff. It's like if you remember the play in the second one,
Yeah.
just all
No,
that
that's
stuff.
that grates on me in the same way of like we had a whole episode about it a long time ago. The kind of that nostalgia bait of like, don't you remember when we did this thing in the Jurassic World trailer of like it had the spitter dinosaurs, like because that was a great moment in the movie from '92, right? And so just,
Right.
I don't know if that's right. Yeah.
Going full member berries.
Yeah, and if that's all that it is, I don't care. And 1899
Right.
was something new, and it was weird, and it was interesting, and it was multinational, and it was all sorts of languages, and it wasn't perfect. I had several quibbles, but I was hooked in, and when I saw that it was canceled, I was actually heartbroken for a day.
I know that feeling when something you really love gets canceled, especially when they don't get to finish it. I vastly prefer when showrunners set out with a vision like Breaking Bad or Dark or 1899, where it's like, we have a plan, we're sticking to it, and then that's that.
And hey, all of those things are new IPs. And isn't that weird? Like something instead of something that's the Adams family that comes back from the 1920s or 30s, an old IP, tried and true. I understand it is a cash cow, but we can want something that is new, and all of these things were new, and they were great.
The Sopranos as well, right? Like that paved the way for a whole genre of television. It's an amazing show.
I've never watched that one.
Oh, you should. Do you like
Watch The
Breaking
Wire.
Bad?
Meh.
It's like the proto Breaking Bad.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some things of it. I just never sat down to watch it.
It's really good. It's a really good show. I think if I watch if I'm watching a show that's and I'm enjoying it immensely, but if I'm watching a show that I know is trash, but it just speaks to me, it's like soapy teenage trash, but I just like it. If I acknowledge that it's trash, is my opinions still valid? It's like
Yes,
because
you can enjoy it.
and I've been binge watching the Vampire Diaries, and it's just it's soapy teen, but it's vampires. I love vampires. I just had a vampire hangering, and it's 3 seasons went by in a week.
Yeah. The problem is some of those things, the thing that compels me about vampires has zero to do with the romance and the romanticism and all of that stuff, right? So it's when we get into those tropes, I got no interest in it. There's now zombie, there's the zombie high school musical or whatever on Disney, and then there's the zombie girl who's a
Detective,
mortician or something like that, and it's I Zombie and just whatever else, all of that shit. I am not remotely fucking interested in your zombies or your vampires love life, and remotely trying to sexualize them or anything like that. That's not remotely what draws me to those things. So it's just kind of funny. It's
in monstrous vampires. I want
human
vampires.
You want
That's
human
gross.
tragedy.
I want a white cord or kind of red cord because they more lean towards still being of that trope, whereas black cord is more the monster trope.
Yeah, next up, Sexy Cthulhu. You can just fuck right off with that shit because gross.
You ever watch The Lighthouse?
Yeah,
you should watch The Lighthouse.
No, but
I've been. Have any of you checked out the Interview with the Vampire show?
No,
not the show. Yeah,
it's actually quite good.
I've seen.
But again, you need to like
some
that
ads,
sort of
but
stuff. It's not monster vampires, right?
well, yeah, because what you should know that going into Interview with the Vampire, right?
Yeah.
So at the same time, they kind of are, but they're tried to twist them around as these tragic, characters and whatever, right? But they are absolutely more classical vampires, but like Lestat and all of that stuff, he fancies himself something different as much as anything. And I am going to put myself on the line here. A lot of that is pulled from the movie with, Butthead in it, with Tom Cruise in it, and Brad Pitt and all of that shit. But there are
really
horrific
accurate
parts
movie.
of that. Yeah, there are very horrific parts of that story and that movie. That doesn't just have to do with yes, ennui and girls, I guess. But Brad Pitt's thing, call him for Thomas and whatever. But it's mirrored, so I couldn't tell where she was coming in. But yeah,
he'll get there. Nope. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just when I actually didn't we watch it for this podcast or something, so yeah, when I had to do the rewatch, I was like, oh shit, there's Thomas, but this guy's even worse than Thomas as far as crying and all of that stuff.
About that, where I was like, are they Twilight based? But there's no, actually they're based on Interview with the Vampires,
right?
But the glowing thing just a red herring for me, I guess.
So all of that makes sense, right? If you're going to live for hundreds of years, if you didn't have a choice in it, there's plenty to out of Interview with the Vampire, but again, could not give a shit about the romantic stuff, and not to mention the fact that so and maybe some of this is personal, and I'll call that out right now too, but it's my first girlfriend was really into the romantic vampires, and well, maybe it doesn't even hurt, or oh, it's kind of on purpose that it feels good and shit like that. It's yes, they're a predator. That's how predators work, right? Mm-hmm. If it was a nightmare every time it happened, it would be harder to capture prey, like, so yes, them
Just
being
the
pretty and the
the
fact
red
that you're
cord.
enjoying it and all of these things all make sense because, it's like Venus flytraps. They put out a sweet smell to attract flies too, because you attract more flies with honey than vinegar.
Yeah.
That's how trapping works.
So,
So
with Anne Rice's Vampires, if I remember right, it's been a really long time since I read a couple of those books. There was a magic to them that made them so much more pretty. Like you got to see that with the transformation of Claudia, versus something it feels more grounded with, say, the White Court of like they are more pretty than they should be. That is a magic that's happening to them, but it's not the same thing as that magical transformation. It was just something that probably they grew with. The White Court is far more grounded, but I can see the roots in something like Lestat.
right.
So, do we got any more controversial last-minute opinions?
Yes. Vampires, shoot them in the face, stake them in the heart. Zombies, you just have to do the shoot them in the face part. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the survival guide. Shoot them in the face.
Is that controversial?
It is for some people. I mean, why do you think there's all these fucking romances around? Somebody's gobbling that shit up unless they're money laundering. Like, so I always told people, right? And I've said it on this show and I'm going to say it again. Like, even if they're going to bring me up on trial after zombies get cured, I'm still going to shoot them. So yeah, don't try to eat.
There's actually
we'll
a
be
movie
fine.
about that.
About pulling people up on trial after they got cured.
Where there's a zombie cure, but they have to keep getting it or something, and they're ostracized kind of from society. The people who were zombies, something like that. I'll see if I can find it.
If it comes to mind, I'll put it on my list behind 3 other supposedly really good zombie movies because it's like Train to Busan, right? There's another one about like
solid.
I actually might even have the tabs open still, but let's see.
How many tabs do you have open right now?
The Dead Don't Die, that's the one. We're not going to ask silly questions, but I have 3 IMDb tabs, so I can get rid of at least one of these now. But yeah, because I have our casting.
Let me twist the question in another direction, where we can kind of get a feeling. How much RAM is your computer currently using? Out of how much? Like how many gigabytes out of how many?
Oh, it's actually climbed a little bit. So I got 1.8 gigs in Chrome right now. No. I know. Yeah, if you want to know the full thing, 8.8 out of 15.8, 16. But
okay.
Yeah, 55%. And it's mostly this though. Like we're streaming in StreamYard. It uses Chrome. So yeah, because weird, broadcast dropped off. So it must have crashed out or finally gave up some of the memory because it was at like a gig earlier too. But yeah. And it's using 30% of my GPU just to do this. So,
I have
this is important.
Yeah, I mean it is, but
I have 32 gigs on my gaming computer, and me just like doing some YouTube stuff and playing a video game. Like I can easily use half of those 32 gigs.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Destiny's got like some memory leaks at the moment and stuff. So sometimes it gets up to like 3 gigs, and that's when performance starts to tank. But I couldn't imagine using like 8 gigs of it, for it. So.
My husband likes to play Escape from Tarkov, which is very RAM heavy. It has a lot of memory leak problems, and so they would have to constantly restart the game. But when we did recent builds, he was like determined he's never going to have this problem again. I think he has 128 gigs of RAM.
That's not how memory leaks work, guys.
I think that's not exactly how that works.
I'm just repeating what I remember him saying, and I don't know if I've got it all right, but the lack of optimization in that game right now is no longer going to be a problem.
I mean,
I understand the thought process and everything, but what he's going to run into is the fact that you run into software instabilities at certain points too, where it's like, harken back to the 32-bit days where once you got to around 3 to 4 gigs, that was literally the max amount you could have in a memory space and it would crash. 64-bit doesn't have that same limitation, but you definitely run into weirdness. And like, that's where I say Destiny gets weird around 3 gigs. Whatever happens, I start to see poor performance, and then that's when I start to realize, oh, that's what's going on. Because like my computer's still got more RAM. It could still take more RAM, but it starts to crap out right around then, and you start to see like weird jitters in the world and that sort of thing. But
the
yeah.
worst memory leak I have seen personally is when they made the MacBooks M1s, right? And early on, the first half a year or so of Firefox on the M1 Macs had a crazy memory leak where all of a sudden OS X would jump up and be like, "Yo, so we're kind of have a problem because it will overflow into the pretty fast hard disk." But it's like, just so you know, the hard disk getting full. Currently, this is what's being used on RAM and overflow RAM, and Firefox was like 68 gigabytes.
Wow.
It was just
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, okay, I'll just restart Firefox, and then it freed up all that space.
And to answer a previous question, I think I only have 37 tabs open right now. So that's the little number next to Chrome in my task manager anyway. So
there's like a really cool extension for like tabs you might want to get. I'll see if I can find the name of it because I can't remember it right now and send it to you. But it's like a sidebar of tabs that's like everything you have open split up into section of the website. So you could have like 100 YouTube things and it would still be somewhat easy to find stuff.
That might be good. Yeah, I do dig the fact that they added that little like search tabs feature, because I'm the guy that was built for, where it's like, you can hit that and you can see all of your tabs. Like part of the problem is like a huge chunk of my tabs, like 20 or more of them, are related to my campaign. And it's because if I don't keep this somewhere in front of me, I'm going to forget it when I need it. And so it's like some of them might be their character sheets or whatever, which those I usually close out between sessions at least. But there's a huge amount of reading that I need to go back and do about Eberron and that sort of thing.
But have you heard about bookmarks?
Yeah, but that's out of sight, out of mind. Like I've got bookmarks, and let me tell you, the last time I used them, basically never. So like I've got bookmarks that are old enough to be, from defunct websites and shit like that. So
why don't they have like a bookmark bar and like
because then the same problem of all those tabs are just going to be on the bar and it's going to be too busy. I totally get that. And this out of sight, out of mind is such a problem. Like I have almost bought Kindle books twice because I forgot that I had them, because I don't see them in my Kindle library all the time. I'm just like, do I have it or do I not? Versus the books on a bookshelf, I can see them and literally I remember that they exist.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah. Well, should we wrap it up? I
suppose.
I'm really hungry.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Sounds
go
good.
Eat some lettuce pizza.
I'm going to look into this bookmark thing, though. You really saved me there. So, yeah.